Okay, I show 6 o'clock. And welcome people to the regular meeting of the McKinleyville Community Services District, dated for January 10th, 2024. It is 6 p.m. And welcome to my board members, members of the gallery. We appreciate your attendance and your participation, and to those who are attending on Zoom. Jerry, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. President Bender,
Here.
Director Beitman,
Here.
Director Couch,
Here.
Director Mayo,
Present.
and Director Orsini.
Present.
Okay, Director Mayo, would you please lead us in a pledge?
Would you please stand and pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
We have no additions or changes to the agenda.
Okay, board has perused the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, moving to second. Please call the roll, Joey.
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Okay, item A5, closed session discussion. At any time during the regular session, the board may adjourn to closed session to consider existing or anticipated litigation, liability claims, real property negotiations, license and permit determinations, threats to security, public employment appointments, personnel matters, evaluations and discipline, labor negotiations, or to discuss with legal counsel matters within the attorney-client privilege. We have no closed session scheduled. Public hearings. These are items of a quasi-judicial or legislative nature. Public comments relevant to these proceedings are invited. There are no public hearings scheduled this evening. Public comment and written communications. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the McKinleyville Community Services District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for a report of action at a subsequent committee or board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Letters should be used for complex issues. Is there anyone in the gallery or on Zoom who would wish to address the board at this time? No one in person, no one on Zoom. Okay, item D, consent calendar. Consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, to be acted upon by the board of directors at one time without discussion. If any board member, staff member, or interested person requests that an item be removed from the consent calendar, it shall be removed so that it may be acted upon separately. Are there any items from either the board or the public that wish to be removed?
Seeing no comment, I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Joey, please call the roll.
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Okay. Find the right one here. Okay, we'll move on to item E1, presentation of the Community Builder Award to Jesse Miles, Executive Director of the McKinleyville Chamber of Commerce. This will be presented by Parks and Rec Director Leslie Frisbee.
You. The Community Builder Award is an award the district presents to local individuals, businesses, and organizations for their volunteer service, sponsorship, promotion of programs and events, outstanding service in the interest of the district, and for other contributions significant to McKinleyville's quality of life. District staff has identified Jesse Miles, Executive Director of the McKinleyville Chamber of Commerce, for the 2023 Community Builder Award. Jessie and her family arrived in McKinleyville on the first Saturday in June of 2012, the day of the McKinleyville's annual Pony Express Days Festival, a festival that Jessie would one day be responsible for coordinating. In January 2020, Jessie was hired to serve as the executive director of the McKinleyville Chamber of Commerce. Prior to taking on the leadership role of the chamber, Jessie volunteered with school PTOs and worked with the McKinleyville Parks and Recreation to develop teen programming. Serving her community is an opportunity Jessie is grateful to have, driven to give back to the community that gives so much to her, her family, and her friends. McKinleyville's location amidst the redwoods and ocean and proximity to many natural wonders to be enjoyed is among Jessie's favorite attributes. But what she appreciates the most is the sense of community that exists here. She can go almost anywhere and see someone she knows. She loves that there are so many ways people can be involved in serving their community here, and that so many community members are involved in creating the community they want for their children and their children's children. For Jessie, involved citizens, passionate local business owners, and organizations are the catalyst for creating a vibrant, connected, and engaged community. As a mom of three, Jessie is very proud of the work she gets to do and the example that her work sets for her kids. Her heart swells with pride when she hears her kids talk about her work and their understanding of the importance of building community connections and supporting the local economy of the community they live in. She hopes to inspire as many community members as she can to be engaged and active citizens who regularly participate in community events and municipal meetings that shape the forward path of McKinleyville. She believes that the challenges facing McKinleyville are best faced collectively and collaboratively, so we need citizens to participate at every level of decision-making. A champion for choosing Humboldt first, Jessie also encourages McKinleyville residents to support the local economy by investing their spending dollars at local businesses rather than out-of-area retailers. In her words, in order to keep the businesses we love here, we must support them every day with both our dollars and our words. It is an honor and a pleasure to present the 2023 Community Builder Award to Jessie Miles for her energetic and passionate drive to be in service to the greater good of the McKinleyville community. McKinleyville is fortunate to have a community member like her, endlessly advocating for local business and enthusiastically championing community events that bring us all together to not only address challenges, but to also celebrate the community we've built and continue to build. Staff recommends that the board listen to this presentation. Thank you for doing that. Air questions, take public comment, and present the Community Builder Award for 2023 to Jessie Miles.
Very good.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Do we have any comments from the board? I'm sure we do. We can start down here with Director Byman.
Jesse, I met you a couple of years ago. You may not recall. We had a wonderful discussion about small business and the importance of the small business in this community. And I was so impressed. And I've carried with me ever since then the memory of that particular conversation. And I'm delighted and pleased to see many of the things we talked about actually come to fruition in the community. I want to thank you for it.
Well, I agree with Jim, and it's recognition that's well deserved. I guess everybody probably is exactly the same as me. I'm around all over, and you're everywhere, you know, and you're very accommodating, especially when I can't remember where my ticket is or one thing or another, and you always take care of it. And not to make this a mercenary thing for me, but I appreciate it. And that's how you treat everybody, and it shows. And community's really happy with your work and happy with you. So congratulations.
Thanks. Hi, Jesse, congratulations. I think the district did a real good job choosing you for this award. It's well deserved. You have brought the business community here in McKinleyville together, and you've been doing a great job at doing that. You're very proactive at the chamber, and you've got a good board working for you. And I appreciate your leadership there, and may you continue to do the job that you're doing in perpetuity. And we're all the better for it. Thank you.
Could I say one more thing, Scott?
Sure.
And I know you know, some people probably don't, but Naveen's has changed hands and they're going to go through a pretty interesting upgrade and remodeling and stuff. And so I just wanted to offer my assistance if that's of any value too. We'd like to bring them into and everything that we do in the community. That's a beautiful spot and it's been underutilized. The look of it is very drab and it hasn't been inviting, and we need to help them make that inviting for the community. So I just wanted to point that out.
Awesome. And Director Couch.
Well, thank you. I have a trouble. I don't know you, Jesse. So it's kind of, anyway, thank you for your work, and great to see you and your family here tonight. We're always happy when people come for awards and bring the whole family with them. It's kind of a thing in our town. Thank you very much.
Is that grandpa on the far right there?
Right, Greg.
Thank you. Congratulations, Jesse. Thank you for the way you filled out the questionnaire. You did a really good job. I appreciate it. It was very enjoyable to read. And it kind of touches on the type of person that you are. And I'm probably luckier than the rest of the board because I've known you since you worked for MCSD. And when Leslie told me that you were going to be leaving MCSD to go to work for the chamber, I was like, wow, what an amazing choice they're going to make. That's going to work out really good for the whole community. So anyway, thank you for your service to the community. Thank you for the vibe that the new vibe that you brought to the chamber. It seems like the chamber is hitting on all 8 here for the last few years. And I can attribute that to you and the board and the continuity that you guys have. So thank you very much for what you do for us.
Awesome. Does staff wish to talk?
I can't say enough nice things about Jessie. When I hired her originally while the teen center was being designed, so we could develop a youth, like get some youth voice into it. And she has always jumped in the pool with both feet and just been a go-getter, and always with a smile. And she just cares so much about people. And I couldn't, when it was time to nominate people, she was the first person I thought of. And I'm so happy to be giving this to you today.
Yes, and I can't say enough good things about Jessie either. Leslie worked with her and her response to the interview questions right at the staff note. And when I was reading through the staff note, the sentence, she believes that the challenges facing McKinleyville are best faced collectively and collaboratively. So we need citizens to participate at every level of decision making. Really struck me. And I really think that Jessie lives that. She is always out there getting people involved and dragging them kicking and screaming to meetings, which sometimes is needed. So thank you very much for all you do.
I agree with everything everyone else said, and Jessie's awesome, and she's always so kind. And I agree that you definitely have seen the business community in McKinleyville become very vibrant since you have taken over as executive director. So thank you. Well deserved.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Does any members of the gallery wish to speak? Of course.
That's Santa to you. Anyway, Jesse, probably the thing I love the most about you is
Say it again.
your family, your love for not just our businesses, but for our whole community, because that's what is different about our chamber than most of the other chambers, is we aren't just focused on, I mean, it's a primary focus of the chamber, but that reaches out. What she does with all of us volunteers is she reaches out to the whole community. And to me, it's amazing what she does. And I just love her family to death. So anyway, thank you, Jesse.
Congratulations. So Jesse knows this better about me than anyone else. I have nothing planned, so I'm just gonna wing it. Which if you've ever been to any of our mixers can be kind of fun depending on what we're serving as the beverages. But I have gotten to work with Jesse. When this position became available, I was the chair of the board. And she was just like the perfect fit. I just was like, you need to go for this. And she's like, I don't know. And Spencer was just about to get started in school. And I'm like, kept pushing her on it. And it's turned out great. And over the years, we've developed a really close friendship. We are puppy aunties to our doggos. And so I just love that you're getting this. I love where we have grown, and congratulations.
Pull that mic down.
Thank you. So I don't know if everybody knows this, but Jessie is also on the board of the Friends of the McKinleyville Library. So not only does she do everything else, but she does that too. And we're super grateful that she's on our board, and also super grateful for everything that you do for McKinleyville, which includes the library. Don't forget about us over there across the street over at the library. Thank you, Jessie.
Okay, the opportunity to speak also extends to our community members on Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak? Seeing none, I'll hand it back to staff.
I think now we'd like to present the award and maybe take a photo.
Oh, I thought it was an informational item.
It
Oh,
is,
okay,
but
all right.
we have gifts.
We've got a flag. Okay, Jerry, would you please call the roll?
You don't have to do the rules.
No, we don't?
No action.
Oh, okay.
Just
I
pictures.
think they just want our bodies. I'm new here.
Okay. We'll help you.
Okay, moving on to item E2. MCSD Employee of the Year presentation to Kirsten Messmer. Presented by General Manager Pat Gaspari.
Thank you, President Bender. Each year, McKinleyville Community Services District employees vote for Employee of the Year. This award and recognition were started by Norman Chopin in 2009. Previous awardees are Sharon Dennison, Tony Rutten, James Henry, Leslie Frisbee, Bill McBroom, Dave Baldosser, Diane Sloan, Chris Jones, Jennifer Olson, Eric Jones, P. Kyle Stone, Drew Small, Joseph Blaine, and Seth Maynell. The Employee of the Year is a person who has brought about significant positive change, eliminates obstacles in achieving district goals and objectives, is resourceful, contributes constructively, is innovative, exceeds expectations, inspires others, proactively identifies and resolves challenges. The Employee of the Year is chosen through a secret ballot by their peers as judged upon merit. The 2023 Employee of the Year award goes to Kirsten Mesmer. Kirsten is exemplary in all the qualities listed above. She constantly exhibits a can-do attitude and is always willing to step up and help her coworkers in time of need. In addition to her duties as recreation coordinator, Kirsten also serves our community by being heavily involved with the McKinleyville Chamber of Commerce. She's a natural leader, and the district is fortunate to have her as a member of the workforce. Her hard work, resourcefulness, and positive attitude are a great example to everyone who gets to work with her. Kirsten will hold this distinction for the 2024 calendar year with a new Employee of the Year crowned at the end of 2024. So staff recommends that we recognize Kirsten Mesmer as Employee of the Year and participate in the presentation of this award to her.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Does the board wish to say anything? Starting with Director Beitman.
Chris, I'll say just one thing, and that is the importance of this award. Because the people who know you best are the people who work with you. And if they vote you as the one person that they want to have receive this award, you can be sure that it's real, it's true, and they know what they're doing. So congratulations.
So congratulations. I hope the dog gets part of the award too, because it's awful special. His greetings when I come in. Of course, he smells all the horse shit all over me. So anyway, congratulations. And it's very noticeable that what you do for the community, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, congratulations. I'd have to echo the sentiment of Director Beitman. If your peers chose you, that must be very, very special. And also, you do have to share the award with Zephyr. You've been very helpful to me as the director at the senior center over here, communicating usage of the Hewitt room and other details regarding the facility that we share. And I very much appreciate that. And so congratulations, and may you carry this through 2024 with pride.
Well, I just want to say congratulations too. I don't have much different to add from anybody else. I hope there's still a special parking place for you that you get to use.
And I stay out of
That's
it.
about all.
Well, congratulations, Kirsten. Thank you very much for everything that you do for the district. As a few of the things that I said during your anniversary celebration that we did here for you, your can-do spirit was never lost on me. The fact that I doubt if you've ever in your life, but I've never heard you say, "I don't think I can do that," has always left me admiring you for your service to the district. You've grown into you've basically created a position for yourself at MCSD. I know Leslie probably is very happy to have you there backing her up on this. So thank you very much for everything that you do for our community, for McKinleyville Community Services District. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that your staff, the way staff feels about you too. I don't think there's anybody in the staff that probably has ever had an issue with you. So thank you very much for how you deal with the people that you work with also. Thank you.
Awesome. Would staff like to comment?
I said a bunch of nice things last month, and I can only keep saying nice things about Kirsten. This is well deserved. I've been voting for Kirsten for the last 3 years, so I'm glad it's finally come to fruition. Kirsten is the backbone of our department. I can't say it any other way. she keeps all of us on track and has good ideas and keeps us moving forward and not being stuck in the past. And she makes me clean out all of the spaces and throw away the stuff that might be usable, but it's not getting used. And she's innovative and not afraid to try new things and very creative and just really like so easy to work with. So I can't, yeah, I couldn't think of anybody more deserving of this at this time. Thanks, Kirsten.
Yep, Kirsten's amazing, and anyone who knows her knows that as well. And I am gonna circle back with all the work that she does with the chamber is also amazing. She does that above and beyond all the great work she does with the district, and then is still out there at all the mixers and everything. So thank you, Kirsten, for being our face in the public as well.
Kirsten's awesome. She is so kind and so helpful, and Zephyr may be one of my favorite non-human people in the world. But when I had to learn how to do accounts payable, which was really my first step into something new at MCSD after I started, Kirsten trained me, and she was so patient and so helpful, and that's when I really got to know her better. And yeah, everyone's right. There isn't anything I think that Kirsten has been asked to do that she says I can't do that, because she's always there to help and she's always willing to step up. So thank you, Kirsten.
Okay, members of the gallery.
Probably get to work with Kristen a lot, not only with the chamber, but in a lot of recreation stuff all summer long. And I'm actually really looking forward to our next skate camp. We've had two real awesome ones with like 15 to 20 kids there. Got one more coming up in February, and then we're rolling it into summertime. So I'm very excited to see where the program goes and how much more it brings kids into our park and families into our park. Thank you for what you do.
Hey, Charlie, one thing I haven't seen is her on a skateboard. Have you got any? Okay, I just haven't seen it.
Hello. You can take a picture of Kirsten, our official photographer. Well, I just want to reiterate all the things that have been said. As Kirsten mentioned, she's very active with the board, as many people have mentioned, and it truly, Kirsten gives so much from the MCSD side. I know we're talking about her as an employee of the year, but I'm just going to talk about her in general. She gives so much and is so humble about it. If you're not spending the time with her regularly, you have no idea just the multitude of things she does for people she works with, for friends, for the community, for community events. She constantly goes above and beyond and does not always get the outstanding recognition that she should get on a regular basis. So I am so glad to see that we're all being videoed here. So glad to see her getting this recognition for the work she does in the community, for the chamber, and as a parent of a very outspoken child who's gone to her kids camp. She's amazing at her job as well. The kids love it, and just, I can't say enough good things. So congratulations, Kirsten.
Okay, are there any members of the public on Zoom who would like to speak? Seeing.
Can we have that cinematographer identified?
Okay, yeah, we'd all be really, really dizzy. Okay, well, I guess we have an award to give.
Can we take another photo, please?
I don't know. Boy, I hate going down.
Public event rights. Okay, moving along. Item,
Good night, Kristen.
yeah, now we're back to the regular crowd. I see. Okay, item E3, we will consider approval of fiscal year 22-23 audited financial statements. This will be presented by Finance Director Nicole Alvarado.
Okay, thank you. The district's annual audit for fiscal year 22-23 is complete. The Audit and Finance Committee has reviewed the draft audited financial statements and has recommended the board approve the fiscal year 22-23 audited financial statements as presented. The board will be provided with bound copies of the finalized audit, and an electronic copy of the audit will be posted on the MCSD website. The audit will also be sent to various external stakeholders, including the State Controller's Office, the County of Humboldt, Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, SDRMA, and various lenders in accordance with our applicable agreements. Our recommendation is that staff recommends that the board listen to the auditor's presentation, review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve the fiscal year 22-23 audited financial statements per the recommendation of the Audit and Finance Committee. And I'd like to introduce now Chris Brown with our auditor. He's here to present the fiscal year 22-23 audited financial statements.
Well, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, well, great. Well, once again, thank you for having me. I did send over a presentation. It looks like it's coming up probably right now. Perfect. Okay, so go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, a little kind of housekeeping here. Always like to let everybody know that the audit was performed in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. So these are the guidelines that auditors must follow when they're conducting an audit. We conduct a yellow book audit or a governmental type of audit. It's a higher level type of audit, and we follow the guidance, auditing standards guidance. As far as the procedures themselves and the audit itself, we're essentially assessing the district's internal controls. That's like the primary thing we do up front. We're taking a look at how your internal controls are in place. We're looking to see that you're actually following them. We're looking to see if you're following best practices well. From our testing of your internal controls, we design our audit programs, which takes us into that second bullet point there. We're agreeing the balances to the supporting documentation at your year end. So like we're looking at your cash balances. We're making sure that it agrees to your reconciliations, your bank statements. We're looking at the amounts you've calculated for receivables and ensuring that those are properly calculated and recorded, on and on throughout your financial statement itself. The last part is, and it's not really last part, but it's integrated into the whole process, but we're looking at an analysis of the key relationships within your financial statements themselves. We expect certain changes in one area to have a corresponding change in another area, and we're looking for explanations for variances and the such. So that's essentially the procedure itself. It's over a fairly long period of time. We typically start our procedures in May, June, and of course, here we are at the presentation of the financial statements themselves. So it's a long process, very in-depth, detailed process. Please go to the next slide. Okay. There are two documents that we will provide in conjunction with management in the district itself. One being the financial statement, the annual financial statement, and the other one is the management report. Within the financial statement is the auditor's opinion. And what you see in front of you here is kind of a butchered version of it. So I'm going to go ahead and refer to what's actually on page 1 of the financial statement itself. So if you want to try to follow along, if you have a copy of the financials, I'll reference the actual page of the financials itself. But on page 1 of the financial statements, what this paragraph really says is, and this is the second paragraph, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, and each major fund of the district as of June 30th, 2023. So we're providing an opinion on the governmental activities and the enterprise activities. So congratulations on that. It's a clean opinion. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So the other document I referred to is what's called, well, we call it the management report. There are certain auditing standards that give it a number, but that gets a little confusing. So we just call it the management report. And that is the auditor's opportunity to communicate to you, the board. You are our boss. It is to you we report, and it is your best interest that we have in mind when we're conducting the audit and we're reporting. Within the management report itself, there are a number of items that we communicate to you. Amongst them are our responsibility under government auditing standards, which I referred to at the very beginning. The scope of the audit, basically letting you know what we're doing. Sorry, we have commissions in there that shouldn't be there. It should be the district's accounting practices. If we find anything that we feel should be looked at, we will comment on that. Any adjustments to the financial statements are recorded in the management report itself. They're found at the back of the management report. Also, if there are any difficulties in performing the audit, and there were none, I'm happy to say, and happy also to say that there are no disagreements with management. So kind of the overall big picture with regard to that is the audit went well. We've provided a list of the adjustments, and there again, we did not come across any difficulties or disagreements with management. It was very smooth. And this was also communicated to the finance committee. We met a couple weeks ago when we went through the financial statements in a fairly high level of detail. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so what we have here, and I've got a number of cheat sheets with me, and I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth. So as I'm kind of glancing around, I'm looking for references and such. So what this is here is I took a table which is on page 5 of the financial statement itself. On page 5, this is a section called Management's Discussion and Analysis. And that area of the financial statement is where the district itself kind of explains what's going on within its accounts and such. It's at a higher level. It's not in real high detail level. It's at a higher level. So I took the table that is on page 5 and I added those blue columns just for the sake of our conversation here. It is broken up by governmental activities such as your general fund and Measure M and such, and your business type activities, which are your water, wastewater. And then the combining totals, what we have here. So I won't spend a lot of time on this, but you can see the changes in the governmental activities. If you look all the way down at the very bottom of that change, governmental activities, it's the third column over, we can see the total change was approximately 170,000. Items that changed within it, current assets, that's gonna be your cash and receivables and stuff. Capital assets, it's pretty obvious what you've invested in your capital accounts. Liabilities, current liabilities are going to be your payables, current payables. Non-current liabilities are going to be things that also include, in addition to debt, it's also going to include the liabilities for your OPEB or the other than pension benefit and your pension liability. And we'll go over that in just a little bit here. But we have the same sort of presentation when we go into the business type activities here. We see in that second grouping, or the center blue column here, we can see the changes. We see a fairly big number there, $1.5 million decrease. My understanding is a portion of that went into building capital assets. And you can see the increase in capital assets right below it. So it that's one of those relationships that we're looking for as well, is if we see a drawdown in an asset, we expect to either see an increase in another asset or a decrease in a liability. Deferred outflows, there again, that's related to your pension and OPEB. I'll kind of go down through this fairly quickly. Liabilities, we see the total liabilities decreased approximately for business type 1.2, working our way down to net position. Let's go ahead and move to total district real quick. So the very bottom number on the far right column, it says 4.321 million. So that's your change in net position. It's essentially your net income. And then, of course, we see the changes in assets and liabilities from one year to the next. We've pretty much just touched on those items, but we can see the big picture where we see assets went up approximately 738,000. The deferreds, and we'll go over that in a moment, 78,000. Total liabilities went down approximately 1.9. Deferred inflows went down approximately 1.56. And then we have net position. Net position is essentially your net worth. It's your assets minus your liabilities. And we can see the change from year to year. Again, I'm looking at that far right column. And we can see your investment in capital assets actually went up. You invested in capital assets, went up approximately 3 million from the prior year. Amounts restricted relates to typically cash that's set aside for certain purposes, be it for debt relief or capital projects or specific usage for projects. Certain taxes are expected to be used in a certain way and such. Went down approximately 199,000. Now, the reason I'm taking you through this is I'm going to point out that unrestricted net position is something that I look at a lot when I'm looking at a long-term health of an organization. From year to year, we might have a change in that unrestricted net position, but what I'm looking for is seeing a positive move from year to year over the long term. And we can see that actually net position increased from the prior year. And again, I'll reiterate that, yes, there can be changes from year to year and good reason. One of the reasons in the recent past has been the adoption of the pension liabilities and the GASB 87, which deals with leases and such. But what we can see here is you do have an increase from year to year. What that tells me over the long run is that the board and management are managing expenses and their rate structure in a way to build reserves, increase their reserves of your assets over your liabilities. So that's a healthy healthy thing to have is that increase from year to year. I'll say it again. There are going to be changes from year to year. Don't look at that. Look at the long term. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so here is this table here is the other side of things, and this can be found on page 6 of the actual financial statement itself. It is the statement of activities, same arrangement. We can see the changes from governmental activities, the business type activities, and the total change. I am going to go to a cheat sheet. So go ahead and keep this slide where it is. I'm going to go to the next slide on here. And there's a little bit of an explanation here. So net position, I just referred to that as essentially the change in net position as your net income. And your net position increased 4.321 million to the 39,821,000 as the result of ongoing operations. Okay. Now, revenues are broken out into two different types of revenues. There's program revenues and general revenues. Program revenues are essentially what you do for a living. It's providing services, water, sewer services. General revenues are things like interest earnings and other ancillary revenue sources that aren't really a part of your everyday workings. So taking a quick look through the revenues, we can see the increase, and I'm looking at governmental activities. Charges for services up approximately 173,000, and we can see an increase of operating grants, approximately 201,000. I'll move across to the business type activities for program revenues. There again, charges for services, we can see the increase of 221,000, and we can see the increase of capital grants contributions, 855,000. Taking a look at the big picture at the far right, you can see the results of combining those two. Total increase in the program revenues of the 1,452,000. And there again, primarily due to the increase in charges for services, operating grants, and capital grants and contributions. As far as general revenues go, I think it's pretty straightforward here. What's really driving that, and I'm looking at the far right column, right in the middle of general revenues, it says 560,000. So you basically had an increase of investment earnings of 560,000. It went from a loss in the prior year, 288,000, to a plus of 271,000. So a big shift there. We're seeing that across all our clients. It'll be interesting to see what happens in 2021. We finished the year strong. A lot of districts, they kind of liquidated some of their holdings. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out in this next year for 2024. The total revenues increased approximately 2,039,000. As far as expenses, total expenses, it decreased by approximately 570,000. Primarily due to decreases of 694,000 in water fund expenses, 67,000 in Measure B expenses, and we'll go through that in a moment, offset by an increase of 190,000 in wastewater fund expenses. So when you take the aggregate of all that activity, we come up with that change in net position of the 4,321,872. So there again, that's kind of the big picture here. I am going to take a look at page 7. Do the board members have a copy of the financial statements in front of them?
They do, Chris.
Okay, so if everybody goes to page 7,
which is page 63 of your board packets.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have the board packet itself, so thank you very much for helping me with that. So the top table there, I just wanted to point this out. This here relates to your governmental funds and their fund balances. There's two different types of accounting. I'm not going to get into the details unless you want to be here all night. There's full accrual accounting, which your financial statements in the whole are reported at full accrual, and your enterprise funds, your water and sewer, are reported at full accrual. your governmental funds, because they tend to be budget based, 1 year at a time, they're based on the modified accrual, and we look at fund balances. Fund balances are a little bit different than net position. But that table that you see here are the fund balances for 2023, and we can see that they're broken out by the general parks and recreation. We can see that change in fund balance is kind of like, we can call it net income, but it's down approximately 248,000 and change to an ending fund balance of 925,000 and change. Measure B, we see that change in fund balance of approximately 47,795 and a deficit fund balance of 659,000. Again, we'll go into this a little bit more as we move forward. Street lighting, it's looking good. Change in fund balance, approximately 24,000 with an ending positive fund balance of 142,000. So those are the fund balances for the governmental entities. I am now going to take everybody, let's see here. I'm going to take you to page 9. And pardon me for a moment, my computer screen went off. Let me log in here real quick. Okay, so page 9 is the essentially the statements in that position. I'm not going to go into detail, just for your reference. What we're seeing on page 9 and page 10 is the detailed version of what we saw in the previous slide, not the condensed statements. Go ahead and go back one slide. Yes. So what we're seeing on page 9 here and page 10 is essentially what you're seeing on this slide. We're only showing 2023, but this is the detailed information for the assets and liabilities. So if you want to see what the activity was, more detailed, you'll find it there as well. I'm going to go ahead and switch gears now, and I'm going to take you to page 12. And I'm going to have you forward the slide. I think it's 3 slides forward. Yes. Okay. So what we have here is, and I referred to that we'd be discussing some other items here. So what we have here is the balance sheet for the governmental funds. It is prepared on the modified accrual basis. Modified accrual basically does not include capital assets and debt. That's one of the big caveats about that. It's reconciled in another table, but it basically shows a fund-based methodology. The thing I wanted to point out here, and we had a conversation in Finance Committee, and I pointed it out, is essentially your due to, due from, and it is, let's just say 8 down. It's just above total asset column. It says due to or due from other funds, and we can see that the number that we see for general parks and recreation is showing 663,000. And then in measure B, we're seeing a deficit or a negative of 663,000. And what that represents is our monies utilized by measure B activities that are being funded by the other fund, the general fund. The way it's presented here is it's considered kind of like a loan. It's not a transfer. It's kind of like shown as a loan between the two funds. I wanted to point that out to you that although you do not have a formal due to, due from accounts within your accounting system, you're going to find these items on your financial statement to balance your funds is essentially what it's doing there. It shows your assets, your liabilities. We can see the various fund balances. Now, a little bit of a difference. I don't want to get into too much detail again, but as opposed to net position, remember we were talking about your investment in capital assets before and your restricted and unrestricted. This is a little bit different. What this shows are the fund balances and how they're broken up based on their usage. Non-spendable is basically monies that have been spent and say like on prepaid amounts or deposits and things like that. It's an asset. You paid the money, but you haven't utilized the service. You haven't expensed it yet. That's what that represents. Restricted represents cash that's being restricted for a purpose that falls outside of board dictation. Basically, there's not reserves that the board has dictated. These are amounts that are required to be withheld and utilized in a particular manner by a third party. Could be debt. Assigned are amounts that are assigned by the board, or if the board authorizes management to do such. Assigned are amounts that are authorized for particular purposes by the board or management with the board's blessing. Unassigned is what's left over. It's there again, assets minus your liabilities, unless you're non-spendable, restricted, assigned, what falls out after there. So that's the big picture. Of course, we can see the fund balances at the very bottom. We can see fund balance of approximately $1 million in the general fund. We see the deficit of 655. And the reason I'm even bringing this up is with regard to Measure B is that as auditors, we pay attention to this. We're always aware of deficit balances and a government's intention or ability to fund operations of a particular fund. My understanding is that there is activity with regard to Measure B rates and such. So we don't have a huge concern in reporting it in the financial statements that there's an issue. We understand that there's a plan going forward with regard to this. And again, with regard to street lighting, we see the positive results there. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. This here can be found on page 14. And to be fair to everybody there, I mean, I'm trying to squeeze into a limited amount of time that really could take 6 hours. So, forgive me for kind of moving through. There's a lot of information I'm throwing at you, and to really do it service, it would take a lot of time. But I realize that you don't want to hear me talking about this all night. So I'm kind of trying to move through it. If you have questions, please let me know. What we see here is the other side of government funds. It's your change in fund balance. It's revenues and expenses. And of course, what we can see is the activities. We can see the property taxes as they're flowing into the general parks and recreation. We can see the special assessments rolling into Measure B. We can see charges for services hitting general parks and recreation, street lighting, grants moving into general parks and recreation. And just so you know, this is pretty typical, is having most of your tax, non-specific tax going into your general parks and, well, general fund, I should say, and then allocated accordingly to however the board deems necessary or prudent. Kind of getting back to it, other income, minor item there, investment returns, amounts allocated to each fund there. With regard to expenditures, it's the same as expenses. You don't have a voucher system, so expenditures is the same as expenses. And of course, we can see that the general government, general fund, 1.5 million, capital outlay. Capital outlay is essentially what you're investing in capital projects. A little bit different way of showing it. It's showing the expense rather than the capitalized amount. We can see what's been going on in Measure B. We see we have expenditures of approximately 156,000. We see debt service as well in Measure B, the 98,000, and the interest related to debt service as well. We see the excess of revenues over expenditures, or in this case, expenditures over revenues. In the case of both general parks and Measure B, general fund approximately 248, Measure B 47,795. The numbers at the bottom there reflect the table we saw previously. Fund balance, 925,000, a deficit of 659,000 for Measure B, 142,000 for street lighting. So a lot of information just thrown at you. Two different ways of doing the accounting and reporting. There again, full accrual and modified accrual. I am going to refer now to page 16, and I don't have a slide for this. I'm just going to kind of point this out to you. So on page 16, and I don't know what it is in your agenda package.
Page 73.
Okay, thank you. So what we have here is standalone enterprise funds. We just looked at the governmental funds. We're looking at the enterprise funds now, and these are on the full accrual basis of accounting. And you can see the amounts. We're just showing the 2023 amounts here. And here again, this is just informational. You can find the detail of what you're looking for as far as activities of water and wastewater and the totals. I'm going to take you to page 17 now, the next page. Here again, it's the activities for water and wastewater in 2023. And we can see total net position. I'm looking down at the very bottom here, 38,993,000. I'm going to go to page 18 now. So page 18 is the P&L, statement of activities. It's the changes in your revenues and expenses. And I'm just going to go to the far right column, third line up from the bottom, change in net position for your enterprise fund. It says that it was a positive 4,151,000 and change. So the results of all the activities for your water, wastewater netted a positive results of that $4,151,000. Now, I'm going to take you to page 19. I have page 19 and 20. Proper reporting states that statements of cash flows are not prepared for governmental funds, but they're required for enterprise funds. And what you see on page 19 and 20 are your cash flow statements for the enterprise funds. The one on page 20 uses a methodology where it takes your operating income and backs out through changes in your assets and liabilities. And it comes to an amount that cash either used or provided by operating activities. That's the way it works. So you basically take what your operating income is, your changes in your assets and liabilities, and the math does work. It'll tell you what your cash provided or used by operating activities are. Well, step 2 of this process is we go to page 19. And what it starts with essentially is that number we ended on page 20. You'll see that it says net cash provided by operating activities at the very top. It's the fourth line down, 1,483,000. So it starts there. And then what it does is it goes through the various types of categories within your cash flows, amongst them being cash flow from capital and related financing. Did you take out, did you build anything? Did you receive operating grants to build anything? And it basically says, what was the actual cash that we received or used? And also, it takes into account cash flows from investing activities as well. Kind of the bottom line here, when we get to the middle of the page, it says cash and cash equivalents beginning of the year. This is about 2/3 of the way down, and cash equivalents end of the year. What we ended up with is a net decrease in cash equivalents in your enterprise funds, approximately 1.353. A good portion of that was utilized in capital projects. Beginning cash balances and ending cash balances for your enterprise funds. Any cash balance and cash equivalents was the 30,022,513. There again, I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you. So those are the operating statements, essentially. We went through kind of the aggregated level. We went through some of the more detailed level. They feed off each other. All those numbers tie together. We move then into the notes to the financials. I'm not going to take you through those. Basically, what they do is they explain everything we just talked about. There should be a note for cash. That explains what the balances were, what type of account it was in. If there are investments, it'll explain what type of investments and any sort of required reporting to educate the reader as to the particulars of the kind of activity and the types of investments. And it's basically for each line item in the financials. It explains how you are capitalizing your assets. There's going to be a table in there as well that shows what you started with, what you added, what you deleted, what your amortization was or depreciation, what the ending balance is. It provides all that to you, and it ties to these numbers that we just went through. As we move a little bit further back and we get out of the notes section, there's an area called required supplementary. And it starts on page 59. And I'll just give you one example. I won't take a lot of time. On page 59 is one of the tables that relates to your actual results for the year compared to your budgeted governmental accounts. There's one for your general parks and rec. There's one for Measure B. There's one for street lighting. Each of those succeeding pages basically goes into what was our budget, what was our actual number, were we over or under? It provides the reader that information. It's one of the required tables. Also in this section is required is detail with regard to your OPEB liability and your pension liability. I mean, those are some big numbers for some organizations. So it was deemed that it was required that these tables be put in to inform the reader about these balances, because not only can they be large, but they can vary from year to year. And there's a good reason that they change from year to year. I'm looking at page 63. I'll start on that here. So on page 63, it is the backup information for your OPEB. It's other than pension employment benefit. It is like healthcare and things like that. And the idea is that you'll always show the reader 10 years worth. Well, we haven't got there yet. We have a few years to go before 10 years will be fully shown. But this table shows what the liability is, or it could be an asset. It just depends on what the actuarial test and the report shows. Let me just backtrack a little bit. So each year you have an actuarial study. That's not actually 100% true, but let's just say that that's the case, okay? So every year we have an actuarial study, and basically what happens is the actuaries, who are professionals at determining what these amounts are, they're looking at things like mortality rates. How many employees do you have? What is expected inflation? What's the discount rate? How much money have we put aside to fund these benefits? They take all these things into account, and they forecast it over a period of time, approximately 20 years. And what you can see on this table is there's a line item. It is the third number up from the bottom on page 63 in the 2023 column. And what it's saying is that your OPEB liability is $4,276,000. Okay. If you look to the column next to it, it was higher. It was $6,942,000. Well, a good portion of that decrease is the funding that you've provided. Up a few lines, it says contributions employer, 2.6 million. So the contributions you're making make a big impact on what that liability is. From year to year, it can go up and down. A lot of times what happens when we see these up and downs and we'll see this on the next table we look at, is what's the return of the stock market? Having said that, let's go ahead and go to the next page. The next page I want you to look at is page 66. Okay, so page 66 relates to your pension liability. And we had a pretty good conversation about this during the finance committee, and just felt we should bring it to the board as well. Same exact sort of situation. We have, with a little caveat here, if you look at the dates that are at the very top, it says 22, it says 2021, it says 2020, it doesn't say 2023. And the reason for that is we're looking a year back. Okay? There's a year difference between what the calculated amount, but it actually appears on the year forward's financial statements. The reason for that is, I think this is the best way to say it. There's no way that they'd be able to calculate all these actuarial studies, get all this information, complete, audited, and out to everybody in a timely manner for you to get your financial statements done in the required period of time. I mean, we'd still be waiting for these numbers. Anyway, but what we'll see here, the line that says district's proportionate share of net pension liability in, it really should be 23, it says 22, is the 2.7 million. In the prior year, it showed 1.3 million. What's really driving this to a large degree is return in CalPERS investment portfolio. A couple of years ago, the investment portfolio had a surplus of $3.8 million. So we saw a decrease, and you can see this here as you're comparing 20, it says 21 to 22. We went from 2.299 to 1.3. That is by and large the effect of the stock market. Well, what happened after that is we had a year where actually it was just the opposite. There was an approximately, I think the number is approximately 1.8 million decrease. So we see these vacillations from year to year, and to a large extent is results of how the stock market affects the total amount of assets available to fund the benefits. It's always going to do this. As we know, the market's up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. Please keep in mind when you're looking at these numbers, these are non-cash amounts. So when it says 2,735,000, yes, that's a liability, but that is not cash that you paid out recently or are going to pay out tomorrow. These are long-term liabilities that you will be funding over time. So, boy, I just dragged you through a whole lot. So I might just kind of do a recap and then I'll turn it back over to you. So kind of the big picture is the audit went well. And thank you to everybody, Nicole, everybody, the accounting team. Thank you so much. Everybody was very responsive. Thank you to the finance committee. I think we had a really good discussion a couple of weeks ago going through these matters. It's very obvious to me that you have a very, very active, knowledgeable finance committee that is very deeply ingrained in these numbers. There were some really good questions, so thank you for that. We were able to provide, again, a unmodified opinion with regard to the management report. There again, we did not find material weakness within the financial statements. There was a lot of work with management going through the process, but it went very well. And here again, we can see the results of your operations for your governmental activities, your enterprise activities, and all activities aggregated together. So having said that, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Brown? Okay. As far as board comments go, I'd like to hear from our Audit and Finance Committee first, if they have any comments that they wish to add, Directors Orsini, Director Beitman.
Do you want to go first, Jim?
Thank you very much for your careful look at our financial position and helping us to understand it. First off, I want to say I'm pleased that the audit was not in any way qualified. And that's, of course, what I look for first, are the statements by the auditors, are their qualifications. And the answer, of course, was in no way. Were there any issues that you could bring to our attention? So that one pleases me. And I think that speaks well for our staff, who've done a very thorough and very careful job of maintaining our financial records for us. As I look at the last part of the report, I see a number of adjusting journal entries. Most of them appear to me simply a transfer of numbers from one account to another account, such as net pension liability and so on. I'm looking on page 144 of the report, that have no bearing on the operating or even the investing portion of MCSD. Having done that, I noted a couple of items. One of them was the adjusting journal entry number 2 on page 142 of $998,767, which isn't clear to me. It's an Umpqua Bank loan, and whether that is being shown is a current amount to be paid. I think it's a current amount to be paid to Umpqua Bank in this year. And I think your adjusting measure was simply to transfer it from a long-term liability into a current liability. I want to know if I'm correct, and as I see that it's telling us that there is that amount due. Other than that, as I look through the adjusting journal entries, I don't see anything that raises a question to me. So once again, I appreciate the care. I appreciate the detail, and I want to thank you and thank our staff for doing such an excellent job.
And Chris, I can answer that if you're okay with that, or.
Absolutely. I was gonna throw something out, but go ahead if you have
Yeah.
a smarter explanation.
Well, I don't think that, but so Director Beitman, so what that is the Measure B loan payment. So those are recorded in the general fund, which is Fund 001, but they have to be moved to the government-wide statements, which is Fund 951. So that was just simply moving that for the purpose of financial presentation.
Yeah, payment for the teen center, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and Chris, if I got that wrong, you can go ahead and correct me.
No, I would say that's exactly it. It's basically to make the financial statement. It's to show the flow of funds through the cash through the proper fund for financial reporting. You got it. That's what it is.
Thank you.
That's the way it appeared to me. I guess I must have been thinking properly as I was reading through.
You are dead on. Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank Chris and CJ Brown and Company for an excellent audit, for the services that you provided to the board of directors. Since you are actually working for the board, so that the board all recognizes that. I know staff recognizes that, but the board recognizes that the auditors are basically working for the board of directors on this. I also want to thank Nicole and her staff for putting together the information because the auditors wouldn't be able to do the audit without timely submission of the financials for them. And I just want to thank Pat for definitely managing that, and Nicole and her staff for putting that all together. One of the things I like the way the audit was done this year, where we tie to notes that are in the audit. I very much like that format. And I would like to see that continued to where instead of the footnoting, to have the note section, because I think it provides a much more in-depth or more detailed dive into what that all means. I think that ultimately, as the audit goes, I'm very happy with it. And as the board sees in the recommendation, I believe that Director Beitman and I are recommending that the board approve the audit as it's presented to us. One thing that I will say is, and it'll come up during the not really the place for it here, but it'll come up during when we do budgeting, is our balance between our drawdown on reserves and our use of debt to finance the operation and the capital asset. How we pay for our capital assets that are new, and but those are things that we can definitely talk about during the budget process. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments from the board? Yes.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank our financial director and our audit committee. Thank you. It's a lot of detail, and I want to also thank you for your brief and thorough presentation. It was clear for me to understand, and I am probably the most deficient here on this stuff, but I very clear, and thank you, and thank the audit committee. And you, Matt.
Okay, are there any other comments from the board?
Yeah, just very
Mr.
very
Beitman?
quickly, I want to just echo what Director Orsini has said, which as we look forward to budgeting, I in particular want to see a well-structured capital budget, and I think these reports form a solid base from which to work on that. So that's just a comment, and I hopefully it's simply reinforcing what you said, Greg.
If people up the food chain were watching us, which they're not, they could learn something about efficient, financially stable government. Thank you all.
That wouldn't be a dig to the federal or the state government going from having an $8 billion surplus, to being in debt in 1 year.
Okay. All right.
And that's off the record.
Are there any comments from staff other than Ms. Alvarado?
Yeah, I wanted to, Chris highlighted the deficit in Measure B. I wish there were more people of the community here tonight, because, the whole exercise this year of getting the community to increase the Measure B funding and tax base. This just demonstrates how really important that was. And it wasn't just an exercise and gee, it would be nice. It was really necessary. And so with the passage of the tax assessment, the increase in Measure B, we can address a lot of the things that Chris highlighted in there too. And the deficit that is in Measure B, we are going to start paying it down. Probably not this upcoming fiscal year, but we'll come up with a plan to start paying that down as well. So I just wanted to chime in with that.
I've got a couple more things.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think that would be great if at some point, once, because we've got a lag between Measure B being passed and when we'll start collecting those funds of what, like about a year, half a year, 9 months, 8 months, whatever it is. So at that point, once it comes to fruition, and I think we see that our revenues are going to meet what the engineers reports say they're going to meet, I think at that point in time, we would expect the board or the staff to bring back to the board some sort of schedule for paying down that $650,000 deficit. And also, one of the other things that I thought of while this process was going on was, now that we've taken the heat off or the pressure off related to Measure B, and we're going to be funding, I think, one of the things that might be a good thing for us to focus on is increasing our revenues, where we have the ability to, we're pretty much locked in with our taxes, with our ad valorem that we get for the general fund, but we also have the ability to be able to grow funds through our programs and things like that. So it might be worthwhile for the board to focus on whether the Parks Department is able to start growing the program funds and seeing an increase at some level that's realistic for growing other revenues besides the Measure B. Now that we've got that under control, or we hopefully have that, and then what we can't do is the general fund, but anyway, we do have the ability to be able to grow programs. So anyway, that's all I had. And with that, if there's no other comments, I'll move to accept the budget, or I'm sorry, not the budget, the audit for 2022-23.
Okay, thanks, Greg. And Dennis, are there any comments from the public? Hearing no comments, we do have a move and a second. So, Jerry, could you please call the roll?
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Aye.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
And the audit is accepted. Okay, I do notice that on Zoom, we do have the Baychicks in attendance, and in respect for their time, I would like to move forward in the agenda to item E9 and take this up so that they might be able to get to sleep at a normal hour.
Sure. Can I chime in and thank Chris Brown very much for hanging
He's gone.
around and his presentation.
He's still there. Thanks, Chris.
Always take thank yous. Thank you very much and Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
And so what agenda item was that we're jumping to?
E9,
E9, okay, and that's on page.
187.
185.
Thank you.
Okay, item E9, considering the approval of resolution 2024-03, executing a certificate of acceptance for the quitclaim deed to allow access across a 1-foot non-access easement on a APN 509-021-054. This item will be presented by General Manager Pat Kaspari.
Thank you, President Bender. When the Hewitt Ranch property was transferred to the district by the Rynearson, Sneffner, and Rynearson Trust, part of the property transfer included a 1-foot wide strip of land on the western edge of APN 509-021-054. The strip of land explicitly did not allow utility, vehicle, or pedestrian access across this strip of land. The 1-foot easement and its restrictions were put in place by the trust. Were put in place because the trust was concerned that development of the property to the west of the Hewitt Ranch would result in impacts to the Hewitt Ranch property. As part of the district's purchase of this western property for the construction of the 4.5 million gallon tank, we also entered into discussions with the trust to allow for pedestrian access across the strip to facilitate access to the Hewitt Ranch property from the west. The trust agreed to allow for a 1-foot long section, which allows pedestrian access across the 1-foot strip and to execute a quitclaim deed, which is included as attachment 1 to your board packet. Upon the board approval of resolution 2024-03, the quitclaim deed and the certificate of acceptance, which is included as attachment 2, will be recorded with the Humboldt County Recorder's Office. The certificate of acceptance was drafted by District Legal Counsel. So staff recommends that the board review the material provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve resolution 2024-03, approving the certificate of acceptance of the quitclaim deed from the Rynearson Trust for a 15-foot long strip, allowing pedestrian access and authorizing the board president to sign any necessary documents.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Is there any discussion or comment from the board?
I'll withhold any comment that I have until we hear from the public.
Okay. Is there any other comment from staff? Is there any comment from the public? I'll recognize Frank Bachik if he's online.
Actually, this is Robin Basic,
Hello.
and we talked to Pat about all of this. Thank you. And he satisfied any of our concerns, and we're fine with your resolution of quitclaim.
Well, awesome.
So-
Thank you very much for standing by. I would have brought this to before the budget discussion, but I didn't know if the presenter was on the clock or not. So
Not a problem. I enjoy listening to the meetings anyway, so thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
Greg.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and participating in the meeting. Yeah, I just am fully supportive of the quitclaim to allow us access so for the other board members that might not know it, we do have access to the property from off of Azalea on, I think that's Bryan Lane. And, but the reality of us being able to ever utilize that right of way that we have through there is slim to none. And it's not realistic if we ever develop, that Hewitt parcel for any sort of recreation. That would be the only thing that we would ever use it for, would be some sort of recreation if that ever happened. So it's necessary for us to be able to have access on the westerly side. Yeah, on the westerly side. So anyway, fully supportive of this action.
Use me.
Okay, are there any other comments from the board or the staff?
I want to thank Pat especially for getting this negotiated, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll second your motion.
Okay, great.
Oh, I thought you made a motion?
I guess.
I thought you did.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I can convert my support into a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would
Second that.
Yeah, we've got a motion second. Can I make a comment?
You may.
Yeah, thanks, Pat, for thinking ahead on this and getting this done, and for being available for the basics to address any concerns they might have had, and for you to be able to assure them that of any concerns that they might have had. So thanks for both having the forethought to do this at this point in time, and also addressing any concerns that the public might have had on this. So thank you.
Okay. If we're done, we'll call the roll, Joey.
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and Director Rossini.
Yes.
Okay, that one passes. Okay, the next item for consideration is item E4. Considering approval of resolution 2024-01, approving the acceptance of the lands of the community forest from Trust for Public Lands. This is on page 159 of your board packet. And this is going to be presented by General Manager Pat Kaspari.
Thank you, President Bender. As the board is well aware, we are in the process and the nitty-gritty of actually acquiring the community forest property. the board might have noted that last board meeting, you approved something very similar to this. We submitted it to Trust for Public Lands for submittal to Natural Resource Agency. The Natural Resource Agency came back and said, well, they wanted it in exactly this format. So your attachment 1 is the resolution format that they would like to see for the acceptance of the land. So staff recommends that the board review the material provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve resolution 2024-01 by title only, approving the acceptance of the land for the community forest from Trust for Public Land and authorizing the board president to sign any necessary documents.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Is there any discussion on the board?
Just a very quick question, Pat. Does this conclude the process?
No. So we have a few more things to approve tonight. It really looks like we are going to close by the end of January, though. We're going through the whole nitty gritty of making sure that all the documents are there and that the title company has them all and that they're all signed, but it looks like we're getting very, very close.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your careful work and attention to detail on this. That's really, really good news.
Are there any other comments from the board? Any comments from staff? Comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
I move that we approve the,
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Joey, would you please call the roll?
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving along to item E5. This will be on page 163 of your board packet. We will consider approval of a certificate of acceptance for community forest property as conveyed by the grant deed from Green Diamond Resource Company. This item is to be presented by General Manager Pat Gaspari.
So this is one of the other documents we need. This is the certificate of acceptance that actually gets then attached to the grant deed for the property. Your legal counsel drafted this, and so staff recommends that the board review the material provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve the certificate of acceptance of McKinneyville Community Forest property by title only by approving the acceptance of the deed for the land for the community forest as conveyed by Green Diamond Resource Company and authorizing the board president to sign any necessary documents.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments from the board regarding this item?
I'll move item E5 for approval.
Is there any questions or comments from the other staff? From the general public? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
You have a motion?
You moved. You moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll, Joey?
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
Thank you. Wow. Community forest is becoming a reality right in front of us. This is cool. Okay, next we have item E6. Considering approval of resolution 2024-02, approving the MCSD board president as the authorized signatory for all documents related to the acquisition of the lands of the community forest from Trust for Public Land. This item is presented by General Manager Pat Gaspari.
Thank you, President Bender. So we know as we get down to the finish line here, there are likely going to be other documents that need signatures, and we won't have time to bring them back to the board. I think you have seen the vast majority of the documents that are going to be required, but we do want to provide this catch-all resolution to, if additional documents come up, authorizing the board president, President Binder, to sign any necessary documents. So staff recommends that the board review the material provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve resolution 2024-02 by title only, authorizing the board president to sign any necessary documents related to the acceptance of the land for the community forest from Trust for Public Lands and the California Natural Resource Agency.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Does the board feel comfortable with that? Are there any comments or discussion? Staff? General public? Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll move the item.
Okay, thank you. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Bateman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, moving along to item E7. This will be on page 171 of your board packet. Consider approval of ordinance 2023-02, amending regulation 42, operation of Pearson Park of the MCSD rules and regulations. This will be the second reading. And this will be presented by Recreation Director Leslie Crispy.
With the addition of the skate park to Pearson Park, the district needs to update our rules and regulations, specifically Regulation 42, operation of Pearson Park, to add rules for the new skate park amenities within Pearson Park as recommended by the Special District Risk Management Authority. Rule 42 can be reviewed in Attachment 1, shown in track changes from the original wording. Ordinance 2023-02 can be reviewed in Attachment 2. This is the second reading of the ordinance. Staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve the second reading of ordinance number 2023-02 by title only.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Is there any board discussion on this item?
I was gonna say, I love the non-motorized, non-electric wheeled recreational device. I think that's a bicycle, right? Anything else, but I was thinking of bicycles and I was, well, that covers it.
Skateboard?
Well, they say skateboard before that,
Oh, they did say, okay, well, there you go.
but I've seen more bikes than skateboards when I drive by the park over there.
Yeah, I also thought that that was a heck of a legal way to describe a four-wheeled or a two-wheeled recreational device.
That language is specific from California Health and Safety Code, which is what was recommended we put in there.
Which is always being adapted, you know, as these electric bikes become more and more, you know, that we're gonna have language in the future that all changes that, but what, you know, we'll deal with that when the time comes.
Okay,
Yeah. Scott.
yes, Greg.
Yeah, I just, along that same line, I think that, I'm glad that we put it in there. Non-motorized should have been more than enough, but I do appreciate the fact that we did cover the base for non-electric because, there's been some pushback, along some of our trails related to, people riding electric bikes. Even though the county trails are all non-motorized vehicles, they're, because on the roads, the electric bicycles aren't considered a motorized vehicle, but on the trails, I think that they are considered a motorized vehicle. So I think it's just good proactive policy that we added the electric so that we don't end up with people trying to use electric bikes on the skate park. And
So I'm on the same page there, except that what I was trying to get at previous is with the state's position on all of this electric stuff and the governor's, you know, whatever, they may change that. And these electric bikes, they may determine that they're not what we think, and we just have to be prepared to make those adjustments if we have to. So.
I can't imagine that an electric bike would be too nimble out there anyway.
Well, they
Okay.
have the electric bikes that are like, hey, you seen those guys riding trails bikes? That would be
Dude, they scoot.
Well,
Yeah.
what does it go
No,
like 50
no,
miles an hour down
not-
Central in the bike lane?
no, yeah, well, not that, just what you can do on a trials bike where they can jump from barrel to barrel and stuff that the skate park would be ideal for that type of thing. So keeping them out of there,
Right.
so that
Okay.
the skateboarders and the kids on their scooters and the people on their skates and things, don't have to deal with motorized vehicles is a very positive thing.
There's,
Okay, understood.
even now, there's several classifications of where they go a few miles an hour and then a few more. So they've got them broken up in different municipalities already, where you can ride some of a certain, let's say CC size, which is not correct. I realize that. Like a 90-50 or a 90 Honda, but you can't ride a 305, that kind of.
Yeah, I think they're regulated by watts and they do have that regulation on the Hammond Trail.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
If it's over a certain number of watts or goes over a
Okay,
certain number of
all right.
miles an hour,
There
then
you
they
go.
can't. But anyway, we're getting off base. So in regards to item E7, is there any other further discussion? Staff? General public? Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Jerry, would you please call the roll?
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Okay, moving along to item E8. This is on page 177 of our board packet. Discuss and consider committee assignments and appointments of committee chairs by the board president for the 2024 calendar year. This will be presented by Jerry Blaine, our board secretary.
Thank you, President Bender. The board should discuss and consider various committee assignments that will be appointed by the board president and also designate committee chairs and co-chairs. Appendix A from the Board Policy Manual, Attachment 1, provides descriptions of the standing committees of the board. There is currently one ad hoc committee not listed in Appendix A, the Community Forest Committee. The full list of committees with 2023's appointments are as follows: Parks and Recreation Committee, Area Fund, Redwood Region Economic Development Commission, McKinleyville Senior Center Board Liaison, Audit and Finance Committee, Employee Negotiations, McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee, the Community Forest Ad Hoc Committee, and the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District Water Task Force, which is not listed in the Board Policy Manual. Additionally, the board may consider amendments to the above list. Any amendments would need to be formalized in the Board Policy Manual, which would occur at a subsequent board meeting. It should be noted that the Environmental Matters Committee does show up in the Board Policy Manual. In the February 2023 board meeting, it was discussed to dissolve the Environmental Matters Committee, but it was elected to do that at a subsequent meeting, perhaps when the Ad Hoc Community Forest Committee is turned into a standing committee. Staff recommends that the board review and discuss Appendix A of the Board Policy Manual regarding the board direction for committee assignments, take public comment, and the board president appoint committee assignments for the 2024 calendar year.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. I've spoken with, I believe, everybody but Director Couch about committee assignments this year. And my idea was to, maintain the status quo. I really wanted some continuity with the MCMAC going forward with the town center ordinance. Thus, Greg offered to stay on that. And Director Beitman's also really happy on REDEC. We had a discussion during Dave Baldalser's thing in this room, and he likes it. And does anyone have any discussion or or anything to say about not maintaining what we did in 2023? Is everybody good with,
Good. I was interested in the second on the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water Task Force, where it says Mayo to be assigned.
perfect?
I'd be happy to be the second there.
Yeah, or either way, Dave, however. Yeah,
Whichever, are they
I
meeting
can go, I
currently,
can be
or-
first or second, whichever, if you would prefer to, you know.
Yeah, and Humboldt Bay just a couple weeks ago came out with a request saying, hey, can you please refresh and let us know who's on the water task force?
Right.
And last year they put out the same request and Dennis was appointed, but they never met. But they are saying they are going to meet this year,
Yeah.
but.
And we have met in the past.
Yeah.
But it's been quite a while.
Right.
Quite a bit in the past, actually.
Yeah, the last, my recollection is, when Wheeler was on, it was the last time we met.
Well, I'm interested in that, just because I got a lot of muni background.
Okay, awesome. You know, I'll appoint you if you want me,
Sure.
if you want me to, okay? Consider yourself appointed.
And
Okay.
then I'll be the second, the alternate.
That's all.
Do you want to take
Yeah.
the lead on it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and,
Since he's retired now, he can, spend a little more
can talk
time.
about it
doing
later.
shit, you know.
okay, so Director Couch will be the primary on the MWD Muni Water Task Force, with Director Mayo being the alternate, or the co-committee member, for better words. Okay, it was also broached in a conversation that perhaps we should assign committee chairs to these committees, or would this be an appropriate time to talk about that?
Yeah, as the staff note has, right now it has the first person listed as being designated as the chair and the second person as the co-chair. So I guess if people are okay with that, that's one approach.
Okay. Does this make any difference to you four?
No, that's fine.
We're all good then?
No, and the only ones that would really, are the standing committees would be the only ones that, where we've got a board,
Okay,
where we've got an agenda. So that would just assign whoever's the chair to being responsible for going through the agenda during.
all right,
During the meeting.
okay, so that's a non-issue then. Okay. Is there any other discussion
Yeah,
on this?
yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. So what's staff's thought on swinging the community forest from an ad hoc to a standing committee? Is there a time when do we have any idea of how that's going to progress, or are we going to wait until we fill it?
Well, so the community forest is becoming real. And yeah, that is one of the things we really need to hit the ground running with in this new calendar year. Leslie just sent around an invite for the community forest meeting here at the end of January. And that's one of the topics we need to talk about, how quickly we want to do that. There's a whole list of things we really need to start focusing in on.
So that'll be on the agenda, perhaps on that January meeting?
Not even perhaps, definitely. yes.
Definitely. Okay, cool. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay. So is there any other discussion from the board, staff, general public? Okay, well, I guess that's it. We'll be going 2024 with our same assignments. Okay, moving along to item, well, F3A. Flip this over, active committee reports, actually. And that would be number A, Parks and Recreation Committee, which is Binder Beitman. That would be me, and I have nothing further to add. Director Frisbee's report. Area Fund, that would also be me, since John Colstead is not in the audience. We did not meet. C, Redwood Region Economic Development Commission, Director Beitman.
The scheduled meeting was on Christmas Day and they canceled it.
Understood. Okay, D, McKinleyville Senior Center Board Liaison, that would be me. And we're just continuing on doing what we do. We did have a little bit of time off over Christmas because some of the instructors did want some time off. Also, the room was scheduled and set up for Two Feathers thing early in the week, and due to staffing, was not able to be cleared for the senior program. So Sale and Tai Chi got 2 days of that week off. We're still seeing the results of our Giving Tuesday fundraising drive, and we're doing a little bit better than we were last year. So I'm encouraged by that. We're planning for a spring open house, our spring fling, where we will be having a plant sale and another open house similar to the one that we did in November. And our programs keep growing. We added another table for pinochle. We're getting more cribbage players. Knitting and quilting groups just exploding, mainly from returning members who participated before COVID. And we're all having as much fun as we could stand. That's about my report. Okay, Audit and Finance Committee, Director Orsini or Director Beitman, or both.
I think we covered,
Our work basically was to meet with the auditor and go through the draft audit report and bring it to and see that it's brought to the board for tonight's meeting.
Yep. I think we covered that earlier too. Okay. If Employee Negotiations Committee, Director Couch.
We did not meet.
Did not meet. G, McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee, Director Orsini.
did not meet.
Did not meet. Ad Hoc Committee, Community Forest, Director Mayo.
We didn't meet. I
Oh,
tried to get them to meet, but they just wouldn't return my calls. I don't know what
they
to
would
think.
go up in the woods alone with you.
Oh, they just said, heck no on you.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, we're
All right.
obviously done a bunch of it here tonight, so
We certainly
we're
have.
kind of in the ballpark.
Okay. Item F2, legislative and regulatory reports. And I know that Director Mayo has something to say about this.
Oh, couple things real quick. Something new came up. I'm going to the Region 1 Aqua in Ukiah on the 16th, but Senator McGuire is having a pretty special event at the Burbank Center on the 15th. They're officially inducting him into being the Speaker of the Senate. And so I just wanted to say that I'll be going down a day ahead. I was planning on going down that day, spending the night, doing the thing on Friday, coming back. So I just wanted to be sure that this is part of the reasoning for going to. So, well, we want to support him, and we have, and so then what I wanted to talk about a little bit was this cotton picking EV mandate. And Scott will remember that when we were at the Aqua Convention, the EPA governor's head of the EPA, Secretary Yana Garcia, was a keynote speaker, and it was eye-opening and scary, their position on everything. Pretty much, yeah, we're going to do this, this, and this, and that kind of makes sense. And then, but here's all the things we're going to do that's not going to allow us to accomplish anything positive in California. This is one of them. And they were adamant. I mean, it was scary, her position. Anyway, I'd like to know from our perspective, and if we don't know tonight, that's fine, but I think we need to ferret this out a bit. what's the wattage that is actually needed for what we may maybe in the future, not what we need to, today, but let's say this next year or so, we've got to buy stuff. What's the actual wattage that we will need? Maybe for like one heavy truck, 2 light service trucks, and a backhoe, which is not out of the realm of something we may need to get. And if we're mandated to do an EV, what power do we have available from PG&E now? What do we need? And what can our solar array provide us in that? So I just think it's stuff I think you all think about it, but I'd like to maybe ferret it out a little tighter. Just, it's not anything that is going to make or break our operation here this year at all. I just think it information. So that's what I wanted to bring up.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have any legislative or regulatory information they'd like to bring before us?
Can I address Director Mayo's EV question a bit too? I don't have the wattages off the top of my head. It's definitely something staff can work on. But right now, there are no heavy trucks, let alone backhoes or any other of our equipment that they make in EV platforms. So those aren't even available. So I wouldn't be able to get wattages for that. We do need to make a decision on, which of those 2 options I sent around the email that kind of laid out the options for the district. I don't think we need, if we choose option 1, they require, 50% of the vehicles you purchase in 2024 to be EV. So if we bought any vehicles in 2024, it would have to be an electric vehicle. And if you talk to anybody for the Ford 150 to Ford Lightning, that isn't getting terribly high rating from folks that need to use it. So I'm kind of leaning towards option 2, which could push the purchase out to us having to buy our first electric vehicle in 2026, which gives us a few years to hopefully the industry develops better vehicles that maybe start to meet our requirements. It does. The disadvantage of that option is on the back end, we're going to likely having to be buying 2 electric vehicles per year to replace our entire fleet. So that's a disadvantage of it. We do need to make that decision here before April of this year. And so staff has been working on that, and we will make our final decision. I think that is, Director Mayo's idea of looking at what the solar array produces and how much charge or wattage will be available from that. It's a good one. So I can bring that back to the board, and I can bring back the decision on which option we choose, although that'll show up in your budget docs as well. I guess I'll stop there.
Yeah, thanks. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole CARB regulation is predicated on replacing vehicles. Correct? It's not, you don't have to augment your inventory of vehicles. You just have to, as a vehicle comes up to be replaced, you have to replace it with an electric EV vehicle, correct?
No, you need to, if you are purchasing a vehicle.
Well, yeah, but for us, that would be replacing a vehicle. It wouldn't be like we're not. So what I'm getting at is if we need a 3/4 ton truck that can tow so much weight around and have so much weight in it, and they don't have a vehicle that meets that specification, they can't require you to purchase an electric vehicle. Right?
Correct. If none of the vehicles available meet your needs, correct.
Yeah, and every one of our utility vehicles has to be able to tow trailers and tow generators and things like that that our staff use, except for maybe the ones that the meter readers are using. Or the maintenance guys are using, but as far as the on-call guys, there's not an electric vehicle produced right now that would meet that we could use basically take our specification that we write for that vehicle, replace the V8 engine with an electric vehicle and have anybody be able to meet that standard.
That's correct.
Okay, so we're pretty much, I think at this point in time, we're pretty much okay as far as being able to stay on track to be able to purchase vehicles that we need to keep within our capital improvement plan. But I think to double back around on that, I believe that as we move forward with any improvements, like at the courtyard or with the building or whatever, that we should definitely be taking into consideration the ability to be able to charge and store that electricity, and be able to charge those vehicles at night, when they're not being used. Not even considering the fact that the guys take their vehicles home because they're on call, and if there's an emergency, they need to be able to respond from home in a timely manner. So there's a lot of things that will definitely need to be considered, and staff is going to have to bring those things back to the board. And Dennis, while I appreciate your maybe utilizing the microgrid at the treatment plant for electricity, I don't know that we have any spare electricity that we're generating I think that everything that we create at the treatment plant needs to be used to run the treatment plant. And so charging vehicles, 4 vehicles would probably use as much to charge 4 vehicles would probably use everything that we create in a 24-hour period of time at the treatment plant.
Yeah.
So, I think definitely staff, thank you very much for kind of keeping this. I think that in my opinion, as one of 5, that we definitely, this is a bad deal, is my opinion, but regardless of whether I think it's a bad deal or not, it's something that we're going to have to adjust to. And at some point in time, we're going to have to get on board unless we have a massive shift in the assembly and in the Senate, and we get a different whole political structure in the Capitol building, which I don't think is going to happen. I think that, we're going down this path. And I won't belabor this much more because we have the ability to be able to get out of here pretty quick. Just read an article the other day about the city of Philadelphia, who's touted as the most advanced in the city in the United States related to the ratio of electric vehicles. And they basically don't have the ability to be able to charge their vehicles that they own, the city owns. So they're having to pay their employees an hour to wait in line at commercial charging stations, and then an hour to charge, or an hour or 2 to charge their vehicles. So basically, out of 8 hours of productivity, their people are spending a portion of the people that have vehicles that are issued a vehicle are spending 3 hours of their day waiting and charging their vehicles, because they can't just park them, plug them in, and because they bought all these vehicles and they don't have the electrical system to be able to charge them.
Right.
Okay.
So I've got 2 other quick comments.
Okay, are there any other comments of a legislative or regulatory nature that we
Yes.
need to talk about?
Yeah, first, real quick, the governor's budget it's really going to put a hit on water infrastructure and water in California. It's really we don't know how that's going to ultimately affect our grant applications, state revolving funds, et cetera. So we just need to keep that in mind. And then secondly, kind of on the same song and dance, the state office of legislative analyst office did their assessment of early implementations of the water use efficiency requirements. And pretty good report, because they're saying this is not a good deal. But the impacts to individual water suppliers will vary significantly, which is not a good thing. Proposed regulations are overly complicated and lack clarity. Achieving the water use objectives is likely to be challenging, costly, and not effective. Framework could create disproportionate impacts on lower income Californians, which is always the song and dance on why they want to do stuff, and then they don't help them, us. Water savings due to conservation framework are likely to be modest. It's unclear how any water savings would be used, and it's unclear if the framework's benefit will outweigh the cost. It's a great report and pretty typical of what the Regional Water Quality Control Board, or not the state water quality.
Department of Water Resources.
Yeah, what they do, they just don't seem to have any touch with on the ground reality. So anyway, I just wanted to point those things out and thank Aqua and special districts for being on top of this all the time.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Okay, if that's it on that, we'll go to item F3, staff reports. Finance and Administration Department, Director Alvarado.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Nothing to add. Okay, Parks and Recreation, Director Frisbee.
I just want to make a comment on the mattress recycling, mattress dumping event that happened on Saturday here. Caltrans put it on in partnership with Humboldt Moving and Storage and Mattress Recycling Council. We provided space for them in the parking lot above Pearson Park, just over there. They collected 163 mattresses, box springs, and futons, and from 101 different customers.
Cool.
I was working in my office that day and watched them out the window. Posted a picture of them online doing their thing, and they were busy.
Yeah, out of those 100 and some, there's probably 10 of them that won't end up on the side of the road somewhere.
Likely more than that.
Well, I was given the benefit of the doubt of response.
Well, I personally got 2 of them during our trash bash last Saturday, so. Those are just the ones that we found. Okay, and General Manager.
I wanted to update you on the 4.5 million gallon tank. It has been raining, so that definitely has slowed them down. They are working on putting in the under tank piping now, and they should get that. They need to encase that in concrete. They're hoping that tomorrow is nice enough for them to be able to finish up tying the rebar, and it looks like early next week will be nice enough for them to pour the concrete. And then DN tank is supposed to show up on January 22nd, and then they'll start to construct the tank in earnest. So moving forward slowly, but it is moving forward.
Tomorrow looks good.
Yeah.
The next 2 days don't.
Yeah.
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 So,
Cold but
so
good.
is that the base of the tank will be done? Or
The
subgrade?
The subgrade.
Oh, subgrade.
Yeah. So DN tanks is going to pour the
They're gonna-
floor.
They're gonna pour
Yeah.
the floor.
Yeah.
They'll form that for it.
Right. And then they'll start working on the walls. Also wanted to remind you all, next Wednesday is State of McKinleyville here at 8:30 in the morning. There's some flyers by the door. It is on our website as well. I'm one of the speakers, but Ann Lindsay, Lisa Dugan, Mary Keene, Cody Rogatz from the airport. I think that's it. Are all.
Did you say Cody's last name?
Roguts.
Roguts.
Yeah.
If it's spelled, you say it exactly the way it's.
Yeah, it's phonetically correct. Is it spelled?
So should be interesting. We'll see what kind of turnout. If you're available, show up. That's it for me.
So the 5th district supervisor is not gonna?
No.
Oh, cool. Come on.
Yep, I'll be at the State of McKinleyville address. I'll cut out early as I have a senior center board meeting. But at least my commute is very, very short.
Yeah, I'll make it too, but I've gotta be in Samoa for treatment plant. To do sampling and stuff like that, so I'll only be able to stay for half hour, so.
What time did you say?
Well, there's eBay.
30 in the morning?
Yeah, it's at 8:30.
Yeah, 8:30 to 10.
Early.
That's very early.
Will there be bacon?
Be bacon.
I will not bring bacon.
You'll not bring bacon. Okay, President's report. I really don't have too much to report other than the fact I'm extremely grateful to be sitting in this chair today. Many years ago, I never had an idea that I would be on any sort of a board or a committee. In fact, I didn't even think that I'd be alive. So I'm extremely grateful to be sitting here, and I want to be the best leader that I can be. And so I'm open to constructive criticism or feedback regarding my performance as chair this year. So don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, you could do this better. Hey, you could do that better. Or if I did something good, let me know that too. I'm open to that. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And that's all I have to say. Okay, F5, board member comments, announcements, reports, and agenda item requests. Do we have any?
Look forward to your leadership and doing all I can possibly do to support you. Thank you for taking the position.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's just 20% of the gig. You're doing a good job. Thanks.
Okay. With that, we will adjourn.